Welcome to In the Green Room. I'm Kinga.
And I'm Chet.
And this is Martin.
I'm Richard.
And I'm Sam Pillsbury.
Yes.
Sam Pillsbury.
Sam Pillsbury.
Sam Pillsbury.
A legend in his own mind.
That's right.
And Sam Pillsbury.
Cheers.
We are celebrating Friendsgiving.
Friendsgiving.
It's
Yes.
Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving. And welcome, Owen.
Hello.
Hello.
What is this
So
first one we're
good.
sipping on today?
This first one is a Malvasia.
Malvasia Bianca or
Malvasia.
Malvasia. To be honest with you, I've never heard an Italian pronounce the name of it, and I've seen it written with different accents.
Right,
So
right,
I'm
yeah,
not really
yeah.
sure. We call it Malvasia.
Malvasia.
Malvasia Bianca
Bianca.
is an Italian aromatic. It flourishes in the south of Italy and Sicily. It likes hot weather and lots of sandy soil. And I want to tell you, it loves Arizona.
Yeah.
I can taste
Oh my
that.
gosh, this
Yeah.
is probably my favorite. We've
This-
never had this on the
This
show.
It's an
wine
aromatic.
has
It's-
kind of been synonymous with, it's kind of our white wine. This is Arizona's,
It's emerged as being pretty classic. I've won in the San Francisco
Wow.
Chronicle, the biggest, toughest wine competition in the country. I've won 2 best of class,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 other Arizona wineries have done one as well. So
Where can we buy it, and how much is this a bottle?
I think it's $45, and you can only buy it from one of our tasting rooms or from me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not in the.
This is the Bonnie
Okay, I
Lee,
want a
right?
case.
This is a
No,
Bonnie
no,
Lee
no.
one?
That,
This is not.
Wait a
Or
minute,
is
does it say that? I can't even remember. Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
Bonnie Lee. I
yeah.
named it after Bonnie Lee, who
Are
worked
all
for
the vintages named after, they all called Bonnie Lee now?
all the Malvasia
Yeah,
ones.
the
Yes,
Malvasia,
yeah.
Okay, so for those that haven't heard you on the show before, give us a little history, Sam Pillsbury, in your wines and how you got into it.
I got into it because I like wine, and I'm not trained, or I didn't come from a wine background at all. In fact, I was born in the States. I grew up in New Zealand, and I discovered how much I loved wine when we emigrated from the East Coast to New Zealand in an Italian ocean liner, because you couldn't fly there then. That's how old I am.
You're young. Stop it.
And they always had a carafe of Chianti on the table, and my parents were liberal, and that's where I.
And how old were you?
13.
So at 13, you were sipping.
Yeah, actually,
Chianti.
most people in the world, except for America,
Yeah.
in the rest of the world, you can sip wine when you're 13, but you can't own a submachine gun. It's the opposite of that.
Right.
But like a little glass of wine with dinner, and this, the things like the magic that I remember is holding that wine glass up to the light, and the way. There's nothing like the color of a good red wine with the light shining through it, and then the smell. Often people just drink wine. Try that other stuff. It makes a difference. There's so many stages of wine appreciation. I mean, I pulled the cork off a bottle of wine the other day, and I wasn't for once in a hurry. And as soon as you pull the cork out, you get the number one response. You get this, if you're conscious of it and you think about it, you'll start to enjoy the wine at that point.
Right.
Then there's when you pour it in the glass. Then there's when you sniff it. Then there's when you swirl it and release more aroma, let alone then when you sip it. So I just loved it. And of course, going with food is great, and you get a little buzz, and that feels nice at the end of the day when you're just going to go back and go to bed afterwards. So I made movies for almost 40 years, and I always
Movie maker, movie director. Woo!
There is a very unique aesthetic, though, to drinking wine and the uncorking of the bottle. I totally agree. There's nothing that replicates that feeling.
It's
Well,
I
it's
watch
a ritual.
people. I watch
Yeah.
people all the time. Everybody knows how to drink wine. Most people don't know how to taste wine, and so
Yeah.
they do this.
That's it.
If like I've said here before, if you want alcohol in your bloodstream, get some Everclear
What is that?
and a hypodermic syringe. I mean, you can do it. You can
Is
bypass
this Samsung?
the middleman. Sorry.
What's that digging?
I think it's this.
Oh, it's ding.
All we have to do to put it on silent is
I'm
flip that
sorry,
little
guys.
thing in
I'm
the
just
front
getting a
left.
lab report back on a couple of my wines. I want to have a.
Well, speaking
This
of
is
the
live.
nose,
Well, while he's
speaking
looking
of
at
the
that,
nose on the
this
wine,
is
let's all
great.
say what we smell. I smell like some tart apricot.
Well, do we say, what's the professional way to
nose.
say it? What's on the nose?
Yes.
Not the smell.
Well,
I
here's the
definitely
cool.
get the
Well,
apricot.
but you have to smell to
We are
know what the
witnessing
nose.
wine being made in live time right now. Seriously, he's getting a lab report.
I know, that's exciting. I want
Yeah.
you to look at that. He's,
Yeah,
he's learning
that's
about
so
his wine.
cool.
That's exciting. So I think I taste, and I also, on the nose, I feel honeydew.
I'm getting
Honeydew.
more honeysuckle, but I get the honeydew
Do
for
you-
sure.
Right?
Mhm.
Do you have that?
Well, this as Sam said this grape is considered an aromatic grape, so this really produces those kind of sweeter aromas, even when the wine is dry. But you get that aroma of sweetness, and it's honeysuckle and tree fruit like peach, apricot,
Honeydew.
Sure, honeydew, honeydew. But
I don't drink all my wine.
And so that is part of the beauty of this wine.
Now, don't get mad at me, Sam, but I know
Don't
when
get
somebody
mad.
asks you for a sweet wine, I've been there pouring wine with you in the big line, and someone's like, I'd like to try your sweet wine. You go, I don't have any sweet wine. We don't have any sweet
Get
wine.
out of here.
Get out of here. But
No,
I
he doesn't.
taste a little bit of sweetness.
No, what he does, he
And
says,
this one,
A little bit.
I've
No,
tasted zero sweetness.
It's an impression of sweetness because it's an
Yeah,
aromatic wine
exactly.
variety, and our
That's a good
aromatic varieties
question.
give the impression of sweetness. But
I think this one's very dry.
But I love this
It's
one.
interesting
I
that
love
you-
it.
it's made dry. It's
I just said,
fermented
Malvasia, I
dry,
want to buy a case of it.
but it's the grape that gives you that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And what
Still has
Sam
a very
usually does, and
fruity
I've seen
nature
him
to
do
it.
this, he'll say, well, you should, okay, I get it, we don't make a sweet wine, but I think you're going to like this. And then he says, yeah, it's very aromatic, try this. And then people try it, and they say, oh, yeah, I see what you mean, right?
Well, we're looking at a culture where there's two things, two kinds of preferences tend to come in the door a lot. One of them is guys who are usually in their 70s. Give me your biggest red, and I go, well, actually, no, we don't do big reds here. Actually, we do, but I
Yeah.
don't.
Is
do
it because
a
they
lot.
have that small
You're not-
syndrome
you're
you're
not
talking
gonna
about?
let that
Yes.
go. We do, but you can't
But-
taste it.
We don't say what kind of small syndrome.
But both with that, and then the sweet one, and what we do with the big one, guys, is say, listen, you already know what your big reds taste like. In my opinion, there's nothing wrong with them. I call them cocktail wines because you can drink them and they taste fun, but you can't eat food with it because you can't taste anything because they're so dominant. And then
Like, give us an example of one of those ones.
well, Napa Valley Cab, classic. You know, it's got everything
Like a
wrong.
Camus.
Everything wrong with it. Horrible. They're picked super ripe. They're put into new oak. They have sacks of oak chips hanging in the fermentation tank. I mean, I'm generalizing here, but that's a kind of a style that we've become addicted to as wine drinkers in this country, and it's partly a cultural thing too. It's the bigger is better thing, you know. It's and I think what happened, it was the same with those classic Napa Valley cabs that are Chardonnays that are oaky and buttery. Is I think
like
back
a Ronberg.
yeah, I think back 50 or 60 years ago, they were trying to sell wine to people that had been brought up on Coca-Cola and bourbon, and the mistake is that you think that flavor is everything. You know, it's interesting. I've been watching a lot lately on Instagram, as I keep getting these visual recipes. Well, they'll show you a dish, and then they actually make it in front of you.
I love that.
Yeah.
But what I notice about all those things is they're all about flavor. Like they'll take an initial material, like a chicken breast or a piece of meat or a scallop, and then they'll load a whole lot of flavor into it, and it'll taste great. But you can't taste the heart of it anymore. It's gone.
Okay.
What
So-
happened
so-
to the chicken?
So yeah. So if there's nothing wrong with that, but to do that all the time. I mean, my wife and I once took my son to the Outback Steakhouse.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you eat there? That's like eating
Such a
No,
classy
we ate-
establishment.
We ate there
What?
once, and that was it. And I wrote the longest trash review of a restaurant I've ever written in my life. Now I've been in the Australian Outback, and I know what Outback Steakhouse food tastes like,
It's
and
not
it
like
doesn't
that.
taste
Well,
like
that's
that.
nothing to
And it
do
was
with that.
quarter
No
to-
blooming onions down there.
At least that's
Onion.
interesting. But the piece of steak I got was literally inedible. And we were in there. That restaurant was jammed, and there was a queue out the door,
Yeah.
and people loved it, and it was all shit.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I love it, Sam. Sam off the cuff. Friendsgiving, Sam off the cuff.
Ding, ding,
Well, we
ding.
just lost
X-rated.
Outback Steakhouse as a
We won't
sponsor,
get-
but
that's right. We won't
no,
have
I'm
them
kidding. We didn't
sponsor.
want their money. They're sellouts.
Full disclosure, they're not a sponsor.
No, not at all.
was a
So
joke.
Sam, we love Malvasia. If somebody wants to pair this, what they're gonna make a nice fish, what would you pair this with?
Well, what I would really pair with was something quite spicy or something like not delicate. I would not drink a pan-seared soul, exactly, with this. I would have a dry Riesling with that.
Yeah,
you know?
me too.
This you won't taste anything. So this will go for more feisty kind of food, like
Yeah.
spicy Asian stir fry. I mean, I know we're talking about Thanksgiving today, and this is
Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving.
right. Okay, well, this bottle was already open in my fridge, and it's a precious wine, and I didn't want to waste it, so I bought it because it's so beautiful. It could well work
It could.
with sweet potatoes.
Yeah, yeah.
And dessert. It's kind of expensive. With the easiest bet, if you want to buy some good wine for Thanksgiving, go to our 3 least expensive wines: Wild Child Red, Rosé, and
What are those cups?
And the
and
Wild Child White. Yeah.
And they're in Total Wines, and they're not expensive, and they'll make great things.
So like 35, 40?
25.
20.
Oh my gosh.
That's
Yeah.
really
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's a great price.
And there would
Oh, wow.
be.
You
they
should
are-
raise that
they're-
price. That's too
No,
low.
I
Great
want
for
that's
Thanksgiving.
another
The
thing.
rosé,
That
yeah.
to me is aesthetic and political. I don't care. When you're a small boutique winery, you cannot make a profit selling $25 wines. You have to make a lot of wines, and then you can drop the price. So we basically make these at cost. We can only make money from our more expensive wines. 15 years ago, our most expensive wine was $34. Now it's $120.
Yay.
So what we
Good,
can
raise the
and
prices.
we sell it. And what we can
Good.
do, what I want to do is I never want to become unreachable for just people who want to have an ordinary wine and they're not rich. I don't want to become one of those places that only deals with people that have, Rolls Royces and Maseratis. I hate that.
What about Porsches?
Porsches are
Porsches.
marginal.
That's what I was But look at Chet's hat. We're sponsored by Porsche.
Yeah. No, but so we'll always have
disclosure, they are a
we'll,
sponsor.
yeah, we'll always have a white, a red, and a rosé at a reasonable price. But
Yeah.
we can do okay if we can sell some of our wines for more. So.
Well, I think that you should keep getting the specialty wines and having maybe $300, and I bet you'll sell them.
Well, if they're good enough for people to want to pay that much money, I mean, we couldn't have sold a wine for $120 10 years ago. But
we should
can
definitely
now.
stress that it's important for people when you're buying that gift for your Thanksgiving dinner that you're going to, or your Friendsgiving, buy something local. Support local wine, support, local farms. It makes a massive difference in terms of sustainability
And helping our planet.
Exactly.
Because we're
You're
here
helping
saving
the planet, and then you're also
One show
at a time. One
and
wine
you're
at a
also
time.
helping, boutique winemakers like Sam who, do it because they love it and it's a passion project. And the wine shows. It's really, every single bottle's unique and delicious in its own way. So don't just go buy that big chain wine you've bought 100 times. Try some local Arizona wine.
By Sam Pillsbury.
Yeah.
In fact, Owen, do you want to put
There's
this
a
in
lot
front
of
of
good
the
ones.
camera?
There's a lot of good Arizona wines, guys, and another thing is only partly told the story.
You're so humble
about that. No,
to
but
say
there
that
are.
because yours is the best.
Well, thank you.
We know yours is
obviously
the
have
best.
Excellent taste.
Sam Pillsbury wine is the best. Woo!
The
Buy
other
it.
thing about sweet wines that you brought up, the big wine guy,
Yeah.
we talked about the sweet wines.
Yeah.
Is try to explain to people that have been drinking sweet wines. I'm not talking about fine dessert wines. There's wonderful German and French sauternes.
Like the Hungarian Tokaj.
There's great
Yep.
stuff around, but
I
a lot
only like dry.
Yeah.
I don't like sweet. for
well,
some reason.
but
Interesting.
they'll go with different stuff. I mean, the trouble is that there's
Yeah,
people who
if you
are
had a really great sweet wine,
but you don't
with
want to
the
have
right
it with
food.
you don't want to have it with pan fried
No.
snapper again.
So
and
if you do get a
you would
sweet
have
wine-
it with pan
Have it
fried
with dessert.
foie gras.
Yeah,
So did you hear that?
Exactly.
Right?
So if you were going to
I
have a
mean,
port
really.
or a Tokaj, you do it with dessert.
Or like you say, pan fried foie gras. There's
Yeah.
different kinds of dishes that will go. Sometimes things with chocolate.
You have
with,
a
you
great
know.
sauterne,
Yeah.
classic with like
Well,
foie
I think
gras.
your
Or-
kisses.
But Guns and Kisses.
I love that.
Well, that's not sweet. That's
That's
bone
not
dry. That's a
sweet.
cote roti. That's a bone dry Syrah.
But I think that tastes good with dessert. I had dinner and dessert with that. And I
it
loved
could
it.
at the
At the
Mick.
Mick.
That's fine.
I want shout out to another local restaurant because it's Friendsgiving, Thanksgiving. If you guys are going to
What
support
was
local.
the dessert? You
Um,
have chocolate in it?
it was chocolate.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's delicious.
Syrah likes
Yeah.
chocolate.
Sure.
And petite, and
Yeah.
petite.
The next restaurant you want to take your date, the Mick. And just drop Sam Pillsbury, your friends Sam Pillsbury and Kinga. And so, what's the name of the guy with the
You'll get thrown out.
hair?
I'm not sure who you mean. But let me finish this thing
Okay,
about
okay,
sugar.
okay.
Because as a culture, we're addicted to sugar. There's a few things about it that are very dangerous. Compromises your immune system. It has a huge effect on your white blood cell count. It's kind of addictive in a way.
Oh.
And
Not in a way.
And it leads to diabetes.
I don't know. Yes, not as much as people think. It tends to be other things, but yes. And but to me, the worst thing about it is, it stops you from tasting.
Mm-hmm.
You can make the shittiest white wine on the planet and add a bit of sugar to it, and it'll taste okay as a sweet wine. So there's thousands of people who all day long, all they ever drink is this absolute crap wine that's bad for them, and they can't taste anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, ironically, I had dinner last night. I'm not going to say the restaurant, but I had the
No,
manager.
spill the tea. Come on.
I won't say what it was because I'm going to say something.
Just drop some of your very obvious hints.
Okay, you want to know? No, just kidding.
No.
And-
Yes.
no.
Yes.
You do? Okay, I had dinner at Season 52,
Okay.
and I love that place.
Yeah.
I think it's very consistent and everything, even though it's a big corporate chain or whatever.
Yeah.
But because everything's healthy, it tells you the calories. They don't do anything fried. And I love the manager there,
I like
Adam.
the
I
concept.
forget.
It's a good concept.
I forget
yeah.
his last name, but Adam. He's such a jolly guy, and he has Adam,
Mhm.
and he just comes up and he just every time greets you, and he got all excited to sell me the Camus. He's like, "You got to get the Camus. We have a bigger bottle, and da da da." And we got it, and I really enjoyed it. But I thought it tastes almost like a port. It's so sweet. The Camus.
Well, I don't. I'm trying to think of when I had one. I just don't buy that wine. You know?
No, that's been years since.
Well,
I
he said that they were having a special on the Camus.
Yeah.
And it was the bigger bottle, and there were a few of us, and it was I think like $120 for the larger size bottle for Camus at a restaurant. Pretty good deal
Well, they
at a
It was
restaurant.
It was a Magnum.
it's a
Yeah.
Yeah.
they,
Yes.
They would have paid
Listen.
$30 for that, probably $30 or $40.
Wow.
Listen, credit where credit due. Camus has been around a long time.
Mhm.
They've created an empire in Napa. They're part of the whole history and growth of Napa. So, you respect that. I respect
But I have a lot of
that.
friends that love Camus.
Yeah,
They'll be
well,
like, "Oh,
they
Camus
do.
is
Of
the
course
best
they do. You know
wine."
why? Because it tastes good to them.
But they haven't tried Sam Pillsbury wines, and that's what we're working on now. Because if you taste his wines and you want to taste some of these other like California wines, you really fall in love with Pillsbury wines.
Get a
Well, it's
lot
all
of
about context too. California, we created the cocktail wine in this country, California especially. That's where it all happened.
You're right.
Back in the early 80s it started.
Yeah.
Because before then, man, California wines were just like French wines. They were, and this is not a bad, I'm not saying this is anything negative. To create a cocktail wine had a huge, impact on the wine industry in general. And more people started becoming wine drinkers.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly, as some of those people, became serious wine drinkers and more knowledgeable wine drinkers. So it's all relative. It all has the effect is one that it made White Zinfandel, in fact, is responsible for making more new wine drinkers than just about anything I could think of. Because you start with that, and then
what leads us into wine.
Yeah.
I'm fine with all that. It's just when I see people who've been drinking cheap, sweet white wines, barefoot friggin' Chardonnay or whatever.
Oh my gosh!
For 25 years.
They don't know any better.
How do you? I mean, I again, it's these 75-year-old guys that insist on the biggest red, and I give them this little talk, and every once in a while someone just turns around and walks out, and I really piss them off, and I understand that, but
you don't
Their
care.
ego
But
couldn't
I
handle
don't
the
care.
truth.
Yeah, you can't handle the truth, but most of the time, this is what's so funny, and we have a constant, we have a repetition of this. These guys walk out with a case of wine with 8 white bottles in it and 2 reds, and I think you spent your whole life drinking the same stuff. Is that how you live?
It's so boring.
Well, and you must do that with everything. I don't know, like
Right?
hello.
What about their women?
Exactly, drinking the same woman. I mean, seriously,
Yeah,
Where's a dump bucket?
Playing with the same Camus.
I can't think what it is.
But it's all right. Let me just get you another glass.
I'm a cheap drunk. Oh, thank you.
You can use that.
There you go.
I always remembered that the rosé was always one of my favorites of Sam's wines. So
Okay, so if there's any
My
left, you gotta
attitude
take
is
that
let
home.
people drink what they want to. It's fine. I don't have any, I drink what I prefer. And, if they don't know any better, maybe they will and maybe they won't. I have nothing
Will
invested
this be
in it.
good with Thanksgiving meal? Rosé.
I try
Oh,
to
yeah.
approach them about.
Yeah.
This is a tasting. I want you to try some of the stuff.
Yes.
I want my kids to try what we put on the
That's
table.
important.
If they don't like it, fine, but I want them to try it.
That's important.
And that's all it is. It's not me being
Yeah, yeah.
superior. It's not
No,
me forcing anything.
Okay,
And if you
see
do
this.
take wine to your Thanksgiving this year, you should definitely have everybody say what they think they taste on the nose. And,
No,
you know,
I don't.
Oh,
think
I
it's
agree with
fun.
that.
It makes it more fun.
Absolutely, way
No,
more
it puts
fun.
people
Also,
on the- yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
No, and
I disagree.
And also, you'll get everyone. You might get a situation where everyone gives you a different response.
And that's what's fun.
And quite often they'll say,
Rhubarb.
I get rhubarb. Is that right? And I said, if you get rhubarb, you get rhubarb.
Yeah.
It's fine.
This
you
is
know?
and then other people might
Exactly.
start
It is a
tasting
good
those
exercise.
little
It's
tiny
a
nuances.
fun exercise, and it
No,
makes
I agree.
it's something
Yeah.
fun to talk about. And actually, I think I recommend people show up with several bottles of Sam Pillsbury wine, and you don't need to drink it all. I'm not, definitely get an Uber. Don't drink and drive. I'm always Ubering. That's it. Owen's my driver if I'm drinking. Right there.
I'm the
He drove
chauffeur.
today. So buy several bottles of Sam Pillsbury and do a wine tasting. I mean, then nobody's going to get into a family fight about bickering about something nonsense.
Oh yes, they
Instead,
will. It's
It's a tradition.
it'll give us something to talk about.
Yeah.
It's something
The
to talk
important
about.
thing to emphasize is when you're doing this, there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
You taste what you taste. It's a purely subjective experience.
I think it's a fun one though, so
I
I
taste
recommend
cranberry.
it.
But you have different. Everyone's palate's different
Yeah,
too,
right.
and it also depends on what you had for breakfast and what you had for lunch.
Or if you have bad breath or something.
Whatever,
That's
and,
right.
and,
Maybe
and,
you have,
and you just have different.
Halitosis.
You have different receptors, and women have more receptors than men, by the way.
That's right.
What do you taste with this?
That's
I
why they
taste
taste better.
cranberry.
I definitely get a
That's why
the
they
tart
taste
cranberry.
better.
See, we
What?
taste cranberry.
This goes really well with
Turkey.
with-
Oh, this is
And
Cranberry
then
great.
sour
sauce and
strawberry.
Yeah,
That's
good one.
really good.
Rhubarb.
Okay, what does a
Forget
case of this
Rhubarb.
cost? Per bottle and case.
250 plus 50, $250, $300
For a case?
for 12 bottles. They're $25 a
Okay,
bottle.
I want it. I want a case of this one too.
And this is the what are we drinking? This is the 22.
Outstanding.
Yes, sir.
I think this is the best
22.
rosé I've ever
This
had.
is what we poured the other day.
It's getting
wasn't it?
better, actually. I didn't like it when we first bought it.
Yeah.
It was actually nice.
Check it
I
out.
love this. What year
This
is
is really interesting. This is
22.
22. Really interesting. You have Grenache, Mourvèdre, Petite Syrah, and Syrah, all those Rhone varietals, and then 2% Symphony.
We
A
love
little, white,
symphony.
a little white wine, which is a very aromatic, as you remember.
Yes.
White wine. It's
We
not
had that on the
unusual
show.
for a rosé to have, rosé is technically a red wine, but it's not unusual to have a little bit of white wine in there, just like a Côte Rôtie.
Well, that plus the fact that quite often what we'll do is we'll saigner the reds when
Saigner?
we're
Oh.
pressing.
I don't know what that means.
Well, it's
Bleed
a French word that means bleeding, and what you do is you pour the juice. See, red wines get their color from the skins. So when you press them, the juice is white, and then if you leave it in the tank to ferment till it's dry, the wine will become red. So what we'll do is we'll bleed off some of the juice while it's still white and use it for the rosé.
Yeah, and then ferment it separately. The more common way to make a rosé is to bring it in, it's in a bin and just let it macerate for a few hours, and then press it. And so it picked up a little color just sitting in the bin macerating.
Right.
You can manipulate.
That's partly why we call this wine one night stand, because quite often we'll just leave it on the skins
Yeah.
overnight and then
Yeah,
press it off.
that's it, and press it off. Then it's picked up and this is picked up, a
It's
good
a
A
bit
bit
of
more
color.
than normal.
Yeah.
Pictures they get more because of the Syrah.
What are some of your
Yeah.
favorite food pairings with this one?
Well, the nice thing about rosé, one of the things people don't know, the French drink 5 times more rosé than any other wine.
Yeah.
And there's
And why?
And
Why is
year
that?
round too.
There's 3 reasons for it. It's inexpensive. It's usually really low in alcohol, which means you can have a glass at lunch and not need to have a nap. And it goes with everything. And
Very versatile.
Very
That
versatile,
sounds
exactly.
like a pitch, but you can
Yeah.
have it with pan-fried snapper, and you can have it with curry.
Yeah,
Can you
true.
have it with beef?
You can have it with
Oh,
any
ribs.
Anything. Okay.
No,
Oh, ribs
I
is
mean,
great.
it may not be the best thing on earth
Right,
for any of
right.
those things, but it'll work.
It'll work.
And I was,
So
the
we always say, if you're going somebody invites you to the house for dinner and
You
you
don't
want to
know
bring a
what
bottle,
to
you want
bring,
to bring
Bring some rosé. Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
you can always start with it.
Right.
Okay, so
you
when
know.
you're invited to your Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving, your Thanksgiving meal with your family, your friends, whoever, bring Pillsbury wine. Bring Sam Pillsbury wine. I'm serious. You are going to make so many friends.
Bring the
that-
rosé.
Right, bring the rosé. Or bring one of the wines that has a funny title, like Diva or
Well,
Inappropriate.
one night stand. That's a funny title.
Inappropriate.
Inappropriate. I love inappropriate. It's a
That would be a
conversation
great wine
piece.
for Thanksgiving,
And
too.
you know, people will want to taste that new wine. You can have a big conversation about it, and it's sustainable. You're saving the planet,
What's
right?
Well,
Yes.
because we've been nearly 100% organic for years. As of this year, we're 100% organic.
Okay, cheers to that.
Yeah.
Toast to 100% organic.
We gradually.
100% organic.
So when you buy Pillsbury wines, not only are you
here's the
supporting
point.
local,
Here's the point.
they're also
Yeah.
buying organic. That's huge.
Now they're not certified organic, but they are organic. Just like farmers have been organic for hundreds of years before organic was a thing, and before chemical,
I
chemicals
trust
But
when
it's
you're
very,
doing it
it's very
organically.
common with small boutique wineries or other, food makers, farmers to not go through the certification process
It's
because
expensive.
it's very
Expensive and
expensive.
Very
and-
expensive.
What would it
It's
cost
crazy.
you?
I don't hundreds and hundreds, if
Yeah.
not thousands.
Forget it.
I'm,
Don't
I'm
ever
not
do it.
doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Don't do
have
it.
to deal with enough bureaucracies
Yeah, yeah.
to make
Yeah,
wine.
don't
I'm
do
not
it.
doing
Yeah.
No, don't do it.
And the truth
It's
also
a
is,
marketing.
No.
if
Yeah.
if I find something attacking my vines, and the only way of fixing it is to give them a quick little dose of something that's not organic, I'll do it. I don't have to, and I hope I don't have to. But it took us a while to work out how to manage everything without. We've only ever used like one little bit every once in a while, but we've kind of worked it out now.
Only like in an emergency scenario
Sort of,
where you
yeah.
got to take out a specific pest. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's kind of like I try to do everything organic, everything natural. I'm very careful about everything. Everything I buy is organic, and people say don't. But occasionally, they won't have the tomato or they won't have something at Trader Joe's, and I'll just grab that. And so I have to pull off the packaging so Chet doesn't see.
I don't care if
Because if
you.
he knows
Shocking.
it's not organic,
I don't care if
he
you
won't
eat non-organic stuff. That's whatever you do.
No, it's what I'm cooking for you.
Oh.
Today I needed to buy potatoes. I wanted,
It's
5-pound bag
It's hard
of
to buy organic
of
potatoes.
Yukon or gold potatoes, and I had other potatoes that were organic, so I bought the non-organic Yukon Gold. But you'll never know.
Okay.
Well, potatoes are okay. Like, if you're gonna take the skin off, that makes a big difference. Like anything, like don't buy non-organic blueberries and strawberries because they get sprayed on their skins and you eat the
I
skins.
always buy
But
it.
if you can,
Well, great, same
Blueberries.
thing.
If you can, yes, of course. If you can peel it, that makes it better. It's really hard to get those big fat baking potatoes that are organic, and I like this.
I got organic
You
sweet
can-
potatoes today at
Oh, yeah.
Costco.
Oh, you can do that. Yeah.
At
yeah.
Costco, sweet potatoes are organic. So we are drinking this wine and loving it, and I just want to say it's $25. You can buy it at Total Wine. Where else can they get it? From you.
Almost anywhere that they sell our wine. you'll find-
Trevor's has it.
Trevor's has it.
AJ's.
AJ's probably has it.
Yeah.
It just depends on the store,
Yeah.
But I know I can tell you it's in all Total Wines.
Yeah.
In this state.
So if you want to care about the environment and save our planet, buy Sam Pillsbury wines and buy this rosé. It's so delicious and it pairs well with the turkey.
And there's one more thing that I haven't said, and it's actually
Okay.
really good as a palate cleanser. You know how sometimes you have a bit of sorbet between your dishes? It'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even.
And
think
even
of that.
between wines, like if you're going from a red wine to a white wine, have a little sip of rosé to cleanse your
Just to
palate.
cleanse it. Okay.
That's interesting.
All right,
I did
good
not
to
know that. That's great.
I like
It's
it.
very versatile.
So what are we trying next?
Wild Child
Oh.
Red, I guess.
Wild
Wild Child Red.
Wild Child Red.
The perfect
Wild
thing
Child
before
Red.
bed. No.
Oh.
Not really.
And that's really said before bed. Did you bring your guitar?
I did not. I forgot it.
Wow, Sam's never heard you play yet.
Yep.
He's never heard you
No, you did once.
Yeah,
didn't
we.
you?
I
Yeah,
played
yeah,
once.
Oh,
yeah.
did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
play. Did he? Okay.
And
Sloppy.
it happens.
It happens.
These
It does happen.
things happen.
So this is the 21 Wild Child Red, right? As
Tell us
opposed to
about
the
this.
20, which was unusual because it was mostly Syrah.
Almost all Syrah, because we had a big
This
Syrah.
is more
year.
like the
This is more like
typical
our
blend,
Window, which is
right.
partly Syrah and a bunch
Yeah,
of other things.
that's
The
great.
Wild Childs tend to be. All of our wines that we make are based on classical profiles. They're like the Rhone Red is a Côte de Rhone, it's a GSM, it's Grenache Syrah Mourvedre, blah blah blah. This, when we're finished blending all of our reds, we're left with all these barrels, and then we don't just dump them together to make the Wild Child Red. We make a blend up from them, but it's dependent on what we have there. So the blend tends to change every year. The style tends to remain more or less the same. It's kind of like a house Chianti. It's a good
Yeah.
wine. It's not expensive. And
So what would you compare this style to, Sam?
What would you compare it to? You're more of a wine expert than me.
Oh,
I make
really?
wine. You
Yes,
taste
well-
it.
Well, it's I still think of this wine as a Rhone style wine.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
got Rhone ingredients. I
Yeah.
mean,
Most of the ingredients are Rhone, except for
Yeah.
this,
Wow,
you know,
that's
I
so
get
good. That's
sweet
my first sip.
pomegranate, that juicy
Mm.
fruit.
Definitely.
pomegranate.
give me that
Man.
bottle.
Definitely.
Of course.
The blend changes every year, so I just have to double check. So
Can you
this
read
is
it to us?
no, this is Rhone. It's
Grenache,
Syrah,
Mourvèdre,
Mourvèdre, Petit
Syrah,
Syrah,
little Petit
Grenache.
Syrah.
But is there a description on there about like what you think it tastes like or no?
Well,
Sometimes.
there is, but the trouble. That's an interesting thing.
But don't
because
tell me till I tell you what I think.
Okay, that's fine. What we used to do is do that,
Oh,
but
man.
quite often in order to get the labels done, you have to get them approved by the
Right.
ATF. So you have to do it before you bottle the wine. So if
Okay.
you write what the wine tastes like before you bottle it, a year later in the bottle it might taste different.
Interesting.
So it's a
Man.
little. It's better to just say this will go well with these
Wow.
foods and
Well,
this. Will, but no,
you know
let
what?
me say this wine
Okay,
from
okay,
our
what
hard
does it say?
desert grapes was aged in neutral oak for 24 months. Earthy, robust, and fruity. This wine will pair with pizza, pasta, red meats, or barbecue.
See, this is what I like. Descriptors like earthy, robust, fruity. These are general terms, but they really mean something.
Oh no, when I
And
read
these
the
are
back
things
of
that people can relate to
no,
without.
I like the
without-
exotic
No, you
terms.
don't-
Yeah.
which
tart
is
on
fine.
the
They
nose.
are down to
Bitter.
specific
Or you-
flavors. That's all.
I taste berries. I taste like
Red berries.
red raspberries. I taste
Yeah.
raspberries for sure. I taste a little bit of licorice, believe it or not.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah,
That,
but
that's
when
not
people are
uncommon.
choosing wine for dinner,
what I
they're
love
not
is
looking
when I
for a
read-
wine that tastes like licorice.
But hold on.
They're
When I
looking
see
for-
when it tells me all these different things it's supposed to taste like, and then I taste it, I go, oh yeah, I do taste it. It's psychosomatic.
Well,
you kind of taste it.
no, but
you
it works
know?
as a reminder. I mean, for example,
Yeah.
I know people that are much better. They can taste the wine and they can give you metaphors right off the top of their head. Like Eric Komsky will just give you 7, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll go, oh, okay, I get that. But I hadn't thought of those myself. It's okay.
Yeah,
You have
right.
different
Yeah,
ways
yeah.
of tasting things. Celebrate how different you are.
I love that, and I love that, and I think it's fun. And Chet, I love making Chet laugh because he'll be like, "What you taste?"
He never laughs. He sits there with his hat,
I think so.
and he has a sour look on his face.
I thought it was
There's the
funny.
wine. I don't think so.
No, yeah, the nose on this is. I was getting red berries too, so that
Yeah,
was.
no, that's red.
Red raspberry. Actually,
little
I taste.
little red berries. I like. Yeah.
But my point is, if you're looking for a wine to have with a specific food, like a red meat or something, if you read this description, robust and earthy,
fruity.
robust, or fruity, that gives you an indication of the type of wine it is and how you might pair it with what you're eating,
I agree.
without being,
No, I love how you describe that.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
great.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
And
But
for me, one of my things is that even more than the picking out the flavors, it's about the texture of a wine, the texture and the interplay, the tension between the fruit and the alcohol and the acid. These are things that I notice.
you mean the
That's
tannins?
The balance, yeah, tannin.
That-
The
That's
tannins?
No, I know, but what
all
he's
these
talking about is
things-
what makes it interesting, rather than what does
Yeah.
it taste like.
What-
you know?
Do you understand that Owen on his next date is going to be like sipping the wine and going, "Oh, I taste the tannins."
Well,
I don't think I would ever talk like that, but
You're 19.
Don't ever do that.
I don't think I would.
unless you're telling
That would be
us.
our
I
last
don't think I'd
meeting.
ever talk like
People
that.
bullshit
And
about
guess what?
wine,
You
and
don't-
Yeah.
all my staff
Yeah,
has
yeah,
permission. When those kind of people come
Yeah.
in, they have permission to tell them.
But you don't taste
Cheers!
tannins.
He's gonna
Cheers.
slap the bag at a
Cheers.
You
party.
don't taste tannins.
I
You
smell
feel tannins.
Maryland.
Cheers.
My
Cheers.
bloody Franzi.
This wine bag. No, I had some 2 nights ago.
Oh, cheers, cheers, cheers.
I had
So,
some
Chet, would you
friends.
drink this on a date?
I think I would go with the rosé personally.
So if you're gonna celebrate with your new date, or any date, or any woman,
That's because he thinks
wherever.
he can get her to drink more of the rosé.
Oh, that's
Actually, I don't know. I love the Malvasia too.
Yeah.
I'd probably go with the Malvasia, but
Here's
the rosé is easier to match with an entree because it's more versatile. So
Yes.
the rosé is also easy to just drink by itself. This
So
wine,
you just want
this
easy?
wine screams
You
for
don't just
food,
easy.
Yes.
right?
That's a food wine.
Yeah,
That's
this is
fine.
a food
He
wine.
just
The
wants
rosé
easy.
you could just
Well,
drink.
of course he does.
You know.
Look how old he is.
Sure.
When he gets our age, he wants hard. You know?
Oh, that's so good.
Never disappoints.
That's fair.
Never
That is
disappoints.
so fair.
Never
Tannin.
disappoints.
This has some tannin.
Yeah.
You could feel those tannins in the finish.
No, and a lot of that stuff isn't even that much winemaking. It's the terroir and it's the season. You know,
Terroir, most important thing. What's the difference between a wine like Sam that expresses the terroir and commercial wines that are manufactured? They don't
They have no
express.
ter-
They
they
don't
have no
express the
terroir.
terroir at
Well,
all.
kind of give us a little bit.
Well, what happens
more
is
than that.
with our wines, we only make wines from the fruit I grow up in my orchard. I don't
Okay.
bring any fruit in.
Okay.
So what comes from that place is an expression of that place. It's not an expression of a little bit of everything. Okay.
Okay.
There's way too much generic food and wine in the world, and I didn't want to make a wine like that. The other thing about these that are terroir, by the way, which means the area.
I thought it means the earth.
The French literally
Yeah, the
word
type of
means
soil,
The soil.
all everything.
But in wine talk, it's about everything about that place. Even the way the sun hits the hill
Okay.
Yeah,
on
everything.
March
I didn't know that.
14th at 10 o'clock in the morning. You know, and but the other thing is we ferment all of our wines with the wild yeast that comes in on the fruit from my property. So the fruit comes from that place. The yeast does not
Yeah.
come from a
Wow.
lab in California.
Right.
It comes
Exactly.
from our place. So these wines come from a place and they're made by a person. And you can do that other stuff, but it just everything becomes so bland. You know, you pick up most Napa Valley wine bottles. You look at the back and it says the grapes for this
It becomes
wine was
generic.
sourced from the finest vineyards in Napa Valley. They bought their fruit in. That's okay, but it's not like this. This is different. This we're analogous to a French village.
Yeah.
So what about naming a bottle of wine Arizona Terroir?
Just let Sam do the naming.
I
He's
don't
pretty
know.
great at it.
Sam
We're
knows
not
the
making- we're
words.
not
Let's
making any
see,
new
Wild
wines at the
Child or
moment.
Arizona Terroir.
Well, most
What would I have
Arizona
to
wines, most Arizona wines do express
It
terroir.
doesn't work like
Because
that. I come from what I feel about something.
I would help you name a wine.
You help me.
Most
name-
Arizona wines are
If we have some
relatively
children,
small
you can name
production.
Okay.
right?
Okay.
They're relatively small production, not like big California, million bottle wines, and so they are made. They do express terroir, and
Your younger brother's gonna be called Terroir.
and it's getting to the point where people will be able to taste a wine from Arizona and say, "Oh yeah, I recognize that style of wine. It's an Arizona wine."
Do you? I told you that story about that Som who was one of the Soms in the documentary Som.
Yeah.
I forget his name right now. He blind tasted my wines.
Mm.
I think I told you this story last time. We pulled a 25-year-old French wine out of a cellar and gave it to this guy, and in 20 minutes, he got within 2 years of the day that it was of the
Yeah.
vintage, and within a mile and a half of where it came from.
Right.
Wow.
He tasted my wines, and he could not place them.
Of course not,
Really, yeah.
because he hasn't had that experience.
Because these are
Nothing to-
original.
yeah.
And what he did say was a red. He did
Wow.
say kind of like Australia, and our terroir is a little more similar to Australia than most places. And the red wine he was drinking was an Australian Shiraz clone. So, but
Wow.
he couldn't pick it. And when people
Yeah.
talk, see, I'm not good at this now. I'll be honest about that. I couldn't tell you what's characteristic, but a lot of people that I've talked to say what's characteristic of Arizona wines is they get the dustiness. They feel the desert in what they're drinking, and
It's all a
I'm
reflection
not sure
of the
about
soil.
that. I'm trying to
Okay,
make
so that's
the
a new
wine-
word I can use. Dust. I taste some
But it's
dust.
all a reflection
I
of
like
the
that.
soil, and there are different soil types in different wine growing areas in Arizona too.
Oh, totally.
But
There's-
dust
even on
is
my
an-
property, we have
Sure.
two places.
You
The,
have
the
little-
Syrah grown by the house
yeah.
tastes different from the
You
Syrah
have little
grown.
microclimates even within a vineyard.
Yeah.
Little
Yeah.
soil differences, little
You-
things.
So can you tell people if they want to come to, is it Wilcox? Where should they go? Or should they go to tasting room? Where should people go to find you if they want to taste with you?
Well, we have a tasting room in Cottonwood and another one in Wilcox. Those are the two places where we sell our wine with staff that are trained to talk about them, and they'll hand sell, and you can taste everything there. But there's something like 130 wineries in the state right now. Try a bunch,
Well, like my friend that I was telling you about before the show, I know she's going to have a big opening for her new med spa. And I said, "Oh, you should have Sam Pillsbury." She said, "I'd love to."
Sure.
There you go.
I did it. I poured
Okay.
wine. I poured wine on
Yeah.
Friday night for Shima Arts Center.
Yeah.
I poured wine for
I
Okay.
saw
180
that.
people.
That's so cool. That was good.
I
Huh?
sold 6
Still
cases
look
of
for
wine.
you on this.
Very nice.
Not bad.
Do I have like less lines from her. Still
You
a
look like
career
you've
woman.
had a ton of Botox, honey. There's not a wrinkle in sight.
You look like you're about to pop like a
At least you can
balloon.
still smile. That's good.
Okay, so what's your
Function's
favorite?
going away.
What's your favorite?
I'm revisiting, but
Okay.
I really like the Malvasia. I've
I do
been
too.
on a wine
it's a
kick for
lovely
about the
wine.
last 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's a white wine
You
kick.
can't go wrong with Malvasia, and I'm telling you, there's at least 6 other wineries that are making a really good.
Yeah, and it's the aromatics that sells
the
this one.
aromatics.
And just
Yeah.
one other thing I'll explain about these ones. The way I make aromatics, and we grow 4 different aromatic varieties. It's so tempting to make them as fruit bombs because they blow your head off. But what happens is, A, like with the Napa Valley Cab, it's hard to taste anything. And B, what happens when you pick them super ripe is they have very, very intense flavor, but they tend to start going down to one flavor. Now, when you pick
Right.
them a little earlier, less ripe, and you ferment them in stainless steel, you'll get less power but more complexity. And I love in a wine
and it's
nuance and complexity and elegance. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
And if you let
Especially
them get
because it's
too
not
ripe-
easy to get in whites all the time.
No, because people mass produce them, and it doesn't work when you mass produce
Yep.
it. You know?
So, do you ever worry that somebody's going to copy these? Like, this is such a treasure. Your wines are so delicious.
I don't think even
Could anybody
never
ever try
crosses
to-
my mind, honey. I could care less.
Really?
This is my wine. If you want to
You
try to
can't
copy,
copy
you
them.
can't anyway.
You can.
My terroir is
you-
different.
you-
I sold
yeah,
grapes to 7 other
exactly.
wineries. The wine tastes different. You know?
So you're saying people cannot do that?
I mean, I don't even think about it. Sorry, I don't belong in that place. That's what we call small pee-pee territory. Threatened by what other people do.
Yeah, the point
It shows
is-
a great deal of lack of confidence and self-esteem.
That is true.
Cheers.
Yeah,
That
you
is
could
very
you
true.
could take wines.
good.
You could take grapes from the same vineyard and have 2 different winemakers make a wine that will taste very different from the same grapes.
This is a really interesting story because when I have
Okay.
5 acres of Syrah, and
Okay.
there's maybe anywhere from 12 to 20 tons come off each year, and when I'm testing for the fruit, I'll go down different rows and I'll get a bag of fruits and press it, and every time I do that, I get different kind of numbers. And so I thought one day, I'll beat this. So one day I was picking Syrah for Ken Callaghan, and we had 2 tractors with trailers behind them, and each trailer has 2 half-ton bins on them. Oh no, I'll just do the one tractor story. So one tractor with 2 half-ton bins on it, and there was 12 guys picking, in buckets, and every guy, I told him to put 1 bucket in one bin and 1 bucket, the next bucket in the other bin.
So they
And
were
we're
switching?
going down these rows. Those wines from those 2 bins came up with completely different
It
numbers.
was 2 different winemakers.
Interesting.
Well, there were 2 different winemakers
Yeah.
too, but I did the chems on them though, and the numbers were totally different. So
Interesting.
so it's the complexity is
Something
beyond belief.
There's something ineffable there.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just it's
So
so.
it can't be duplicated.
I don't
Why
even.
would you want
Again,
to?
I don't even think about it. It's
Well, no,
it's
no.
not
What
on
I'm
my
saying
radar.
is like
What
if
is
you-
that?
like,
Often
okay.
imitated, never
Well,
duplicated.
Okay, this is original. Okay,
What I'm saying
the other
is
way of
I
saying
drink
it,
Grandauer.
these
It's
are
always the same.
Oh, that's because it's
Well,
mass
that's 'cause
produced.
it's a manufactured
It's always the
wine.
same. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying. My
That's a
point.
manufactured
My point
wine.
is
Yeah.
yours.
These are different.
They're always. It's like art.
No.
It's always going to be different.
Yeah, these are unique,
A
and they're
manufactured wine
authentic.
Right.
You know.
It's
Has
authentic.
nothing to
It's
do
original.
with terroir. Has
Character,
nothing to
has
do with
character.
vintage.
Character.
Has
Thank
to do with a
you.
lab.
Thank you. Thank
I mean,
you.
And that's
if you-
fine, they taste great.
We
People love them.
We do everything in barrel.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you know? You look at those pictures of those big wineries, and they have those 50-foot high stainless steel tanks in rows. That's manufactured wine. It's perfect.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with it. They have they have steel jacketed tanks. It's temperature controlled. They do chemical analysis.
So you don't like perfect.
But I don't want to make perfect. In fact, I deliberately run the whole operation a bit like a medieval French village winery because I want it to have unexpected things, and sometimes we get bit in the ass by it.
Yeah, you
Sometimes
can.
we have a problem and we have to fix
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But mostly we get real interesting shit going
Because,
on.
listen, it's about microbial management. And a small winery like Sam's, they've got to really watch out for microbial management.
Super.
In a big commercial winery, they don't have to because they kill all the
Everything's
microbes.
dead. Everything that
It's
goes
all
in there
dead.
is dead. It's gone.
Oh wait, define micro.
Microbe are living
Organisms.
organisms,
Mhm.
bacteria, etc.
Mhm.
And a natural wine, a real wine like this, has living microbes, which is this is how the wine ages.
It really interests me. I just checked the other day. There were 2 of our wines that I knew were imperfect. I thought they were okay, but I thought they were marginal. And I went back and I looked at the medals that we got from the San Francisco Chronicle. Each one of them got silver medals.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now I could tell there was something wrong with them, you know, but it was okay something wrong.
But you're too critical.
No, it was
Like-
I chemically tested them. I know the numbers weren't where they would be at Rombauer or at whatever, but
But they
Chronicle
still
gave
tasted
them
fine.
silver.
Wow.
And
Well,
those wines that you're talking about that you thought were a little imperfect, 2 years later, they're going to taste different.
They might taste better. They might taste worse too.
They
yeah,
might taste
yeah.
better, might taste worse.
It's
worse.
a little risky what we're doing,
Yeah.
but and
I love how you're brutally honest.
well, what else is worth living for?
Yeah. You said it's going to be good, and he's like, well, it might not.
It
Might not, you know?
It's going
We've,
to change. But
we've
one
had to
thing
we've
is,
had to remake a couple of batches. Pretty damn expensive.
So if somebody gets a case of wine and they feel it's off, has it happened?
a case,
Not a case, a bottle. Sure,
Bottle,
it
yeah.
but
Okay.
that happens with anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's bottle variation.
Yeah, we're I don't know if we have any more than anybody else. Maybe a little bit, but I don't. It's not a funny story.
I love it. We love your stories. Go,
When I first started my very first diva, is a 2000.
What was her name? No, just kidding.
Right. What was your diva?
That was our first- I made
Your very first
I
diva.
made 3 wines. You
Very
had them
good.
all: the rosé, the Rhone Red, and the Diva. And I took it to Enchantment Resort, and
in Sedona.
in Sedona, and right out of the box, and I sold it to them for that year, the 06 vintage, for maybe 2 years. What happened was the place that I made it, which I won't mention, was the first time I made wine under my own label, and it wasn't in my own place because I hadn't built my winery yet. And they gave me I used corks from there. And
Was it Glomsky?
I'm not saying who it was. And the corks were, I don't know for sure, but a lot of those bottles were what they call corked.
Yeah.
Okay, and that happens when there's low quality cork, or they get left around lying outside for a long time, or someone touched them or something. Anyway, so I went to Enchantment, and I explained to the guy that bought them all that some of these divas were corked, and when they got a corked bottle, let me know and I'll replace it. I sold them maybe 50 cases of Diva, and not one bottle was returned because people didn't even realize.
Yeah.
Oh, that it was
Yeah.
corked.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that to talk about flaws. You know, so there can be flaws in a wine that you don't mind, that you're used to, or you don't recognize. I have a fellow winemaker from New Zealand who tasted some wines at a film. Oh, it was actually the Sedona Sedona Film Festival, and
Dan Harkins?
whatever it's called, I don't know what it is now.
Yeah,
But
he's
this was
part of
years,
it, yeah.
This was years ago. And anyway, I got this bottle and I poured him a glass and I poured me a glass. And this guy has a vineyard and a winery in New Zealand, and he was drinking away. And I took a drink and I went, "Oh, this wine is so corked, I can't even drink it." He didn't even realize.
Yeah.
So,
Crazy.
it's amazing what you can get away with.
Isn't that interesting?
And some people just have more sensitivity to
As
it.
well.
But also,
Yeah.
you get the
Yeah.
people.
And
Hold
some
on.
people,
Hold on. You get some people that don't want to complain, even if it's awful. I want to tell you.
That's true.
But out of 50 cases.
No,
no,
that
no,
definitely
no.
happens, but
No.
this was ubiquitous.
Right,
I mean,
right.
there was no.
That's
there
my
was
word.
There was 2 bottles in every case that was corked.
Do you know ubiquitous? That's my word. I use it every day.
That's
Like
your word.
ubiquitous. Do I say it all the time?
You do.
I do. Chickens know me when I use it too much. But
Okay.
bottom line is, you're amazing. Cheers. Cheers, and I love your wine.
Thank you.
I do like this Malaysia, that's for sure.
It's your favorite.
I have to say, it's a funny thing. I don't drink very much, and I quite often drink hardly any of my own wine, and I thought that tasted really good.
Well, it
I
is.
think this is.
No.
I think that's my
Consistent.
favorite of the day as well.
Yeah.
Can I
My,
try the,
it's funny because
the
this
rosé?
one is my favorite.
2 best of class on the San Francisco Chronicle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell. It's yummy.
Pour me, Malvasia. Gee, it's good to
Well,
see ya.
I think
What?
these are all The best of the best.
Now that we have about only 5 minutes left, I want to know
Okay.
what is the number one bottle you would recommend somebody to take if they really want to impress whoever they're going over to Thanksgiving with. You know what I mean? Like, what's
there we
the?
go.
That's a good one.
We've shown a few of the affordable bottles. What's like the fancy one for somebody to impress with?
Okay, let me just say
That's
this too.
good.
It also depends on how you do your turkey, because literally, like I have just, I'm doing a wine dinner at Genuine at the end of next week. Okay, I have had
I'll be there.
3 sessions
No stalkers, please.
with Jeremy Pacheco, who's the executive chef of the Vig Group, testing all the dishes that we have. I went back 3 times trying different wines so that to get it right.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's a restaurant will say, I want you to do a dinner with us. Here's the menu. What do you reckon we pair it with? And I go, well, how much cumin is in this pork? You know, you have to, if you
You have
want to
to
get it
taste it,
right, you have
right.
to taste
Yeah.
it. You can get away with it,
Mhm.
and most people won't realize if it's not great. But if you get it right, it's like it transforms both the food and the wine, and it's really exciting.
That's it.
And
I agree.
that's how much time we spent doing that. And I opened a lot of bottles at my own expense
And
to get that right.
that's unusual to go to those lengths. But you know, if you really want to do a great wine dinner, that's what you do.
Wait, so Genuine is with the
Genuine.
Genuine.
Well, there's a place called Genuine, the Genuine
which is a
restaurant.
tasting room.
Yeah,
But Genuine
Genuine
is,
Yeah, it's
is
where the Vig used to be.
yeah,
and they made it
16th
fancier.
and Bethany Home.
Six-
Tucker
Exactly.
Woodbury.
I don't know, honey. 16th and Bethany.
16th and
yeah.
Bethany Home.
One day
It used to be
I
the
I
don't
don't
know
16th
what
Street?
you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a Vig, but
Yeah,
this
and
sounds
he's
something-
partners with my friend Tucker Woodbury
Yeah,
that I
so
introduced Sam to. I
Jeremy
asked him
is
to
now part of
have
the
his
big
wife.
group, and they
Yes,
took
I
that
know.
big restaurant and upgraded it and
Yes.
transformed it.
Yes.
And he's the chef. behind it.
Jeremy, bless his heart, at a wine tasting at the Scottsdale Art Museum
Shamir.
15 or 16 years ago. I was pouring and he tasted the wine, and he's had my wine. He's bought my
Yeah,
wine for his
yeah.
restaurants every year.
And he
since
used to
then.
be the chef at Lon's.
He invited me every year to be guest chef. I was guest chef at Lawrence for 10 years.
Yeah.
One year, once a year.
Right,
you know?
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And he comes down and he cooks for us for dinners that we do down at the. We're great, and it's interesting because I just did the same pouring
I'd like
thing
to
with
meet
the
him.
with the.
He's good.
I'll meet you if you
Okay.
come on that Friday. I'll introduce you.
I'll be there.
The Phoenix City Grill, and it was the same thing when I said, look guys, the best way of doing this is if you, I know it's a pain, but if you make the dishes, we'll get it right. And I could see, you know, you get that thing when you see people's faces, they go, he's being a pain. And I said, if you don't want to do it, that's okay, but I promise you it'll make a difference. When we sat down and did all that, you should have seen their faces when we got it right each time. Their eyeballs just popped.
Yeah,
That's awesome that you're
It is
particular
amazing.
about it and want to do
Difference.
it right, though.
Most
That's
people
important.
don't do that.
You know
Yeah.
the expression, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. There's nothing that expresses that more than a great fruit and wine pairing.
That's very true.
It's
Because
I
exciting.
exactly
because
agree.
it takes it to a whole.
It elevates
different level.
everything.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I like the Mick. I'm going to bring up the Mick again. They do these som crawls where they have
Yeah.
multiple soms pair their wine with the meal, and that was very exciting. We
Yeah.
went to those.
Yeah,
We went to a
yeah,
couple of them.
Great.
And you said they carry Pillsbury wine there, right?
They do.
So it's a good place to go out for dinner after
Oh
work.
yes.
If they have the Guns and Kisses there, that's got to be the
They
only
do.
restaurant in the world.
Okay, so
that
you know who you
carries
can
that.
ask? Gordon. I took him there for his birthday recently. Like his birthday was like November 3rd.
Was that all you did with him?
Hey now.
Hey now. So and that's
He's
the
a big
wine.
Gordon's a big fan though. He's great.
He's a big fan of your wine.
But
I know.
that song at the mix.
Jeff.
Jeff calls me
Jeff.
the
Jeff's so
Godfather.
great.
Of
I love
Arizona.
Jeff.
The Godfather.
Everybody
Also.
there
Jeff
knows
is
it.
really-
Wait, Chet,
really
you
knowledgeable.
need to take your next.
But that they even have the Guns and Kisses there is extraordinary because
Yes.
the normal retail of that is $120. So you must have paid $200 for that.
It's expensive.
Yeah, and it's
I paid the bill. Yes.
that wine's got 4 double golds in the San Francisco corner.
Yes,
So
it's very
It's
expensive.
several times been one of the top 3 wines. And
What
the
the
biggest,
vintage? What vintage?
That was I think that's.
I think it was $200.
Yeah, I can't remember from. I've got a photo
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
Was it
Yeah.
the 19?
19.
I
probably.
don't remember,
Okay.
but I sent you a picture.
You did no.
Yeah, look on your picture.
Well, I have to
yeah.
turn my phone off, so
Yeah.
this will take a minute.
So, but we only have
We only
a
have
minute and a
one more
half.
Minute and a
So
half.
don't look at your picture.
We only
Don't
have
It's
1 minute
Friendsgiving.
So
left.
it's Friendsgiving, so I want to say thank you guys. I love you, Sam. I love you, Richard. I love you, Chet. I love you, Martin. I love you, Owen. Gabe.
Yes.
Woo! Friendsgiving.
Just one little
Yes.
thing about
It's Thanksgiving,
thankful. I think
Friendsgiving.
it's okay to celebrate and be thankful. One of the things that I'm thankful about is that I do not live in Gaza right now.
Yeah, no kidding.
Thank you. Oh, God bless you. Yeah. And what?
Can you imagine?
Yes.
No.
Excuse
Now,
me.
Not
tell me
really.
your other
Not
blessings. Tell me what you're thankful for and grateful for in your like positive life. Your wines, Arizona. What is it?
You know, my friends and family, even way down on the scale, you guys, you know.
He's got jokes.
Listen, you know
Pillsbury
what?
wine in the green room. Green.
You know, you want to go. You want to go
Support
through.
local.
You want to go through life every day with an attitude of gratitude.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
Thank
I
you,
love it.
Richard.
I love
Every day, not just Thanksgiving.
That's right.
You
Not just
too.
Thanksgiving.
We're saving the planet
One
one show
show
at a time.
Mm.